Hello, creative spirits. I've got a short-ish episode for you this time. And first, I want to let you know that doors to the Creative Magic Collective are open. And this year in the collective, we are taking a Decan walk, which is what this episode is all about. I've got one of our guest teachers on the show, and we're having a conversation about Decan walks, what they are, what it was like when we took one together, and what we imagine it's going to be like as we take another one, as we co-create one for hopefully folks like you. So I just want you to know before we get into the episode that doors are open, you're invited, and if you want to see more information, please check the show notes for a link. And get in there, check it out, send me any questions, let me know what you think. It's kind of a different experience, but that's what makes it great. That's one of the things that makes it great. And you'll hear more about what makes it great in this conversation with Sara Pettit. I hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to Your Creative and Magical Life. I have a special little episode for y'all today. I have been talking a little bit about this on the podcast here and there, this upcoming Decan walk that I'm hosting and that you are invited to. And today I have with me the one and only guest teacher who is supporting us in this journey, and that is Sara Pettit. Hi, Sara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So glad you're here. I met Sara in the classes, the workshops, the profound teaching spaces of Christopher Marmolejo, and have really loved learning with Sara and learning from Sara. And I'm coming at the Decan walk, and we'll talk more about what the Decan walk is, but I'm coming at this primarily from my experience with tarot, because the Decan walk will take us through the entire deck through an astrological lens. But in terms of astrology, I'm still learning a lot, and I have so much more to learn. Doing a Decan walk has helped me increase that knowledge exponentially in a way that felt more accessible than anything else. I've been pulling together little bits and pieces here and there, but doing the Decan walk really helped me break through astrology and feel like it wasn't just this swirling morass of complicated, gigantic planetary bodies moving around that my little brain was trying to follow. At the same time, my astrological knowledge is limited, but Sara has been studying astrology much more deeply for the past several years. So I'm really excited to bring Sara in on the Decan walk. And Sara's primary role, at least initially, will be to host quarterly chart readings with us so that everyone in the space can have a deeper look at astrology with someone who knows far more than me. So, Sara, thank you for being that person. And I'm really excited to do this with you. And I wonder if you could just start by sharing with us some of your background, how you've come to this place, some of the work you've done in the past, and, where you live, what you like, how you bring joy into your life, whatever you want to share.
I am so excited to go on this Decan walk with your creative community as well. I live in Oakland, California. I've lived in the Bay Area for, over 20 years now. I moved up here because I studied theater from at UCLA many, many moons ago. And I worked in nonprofits, same as Cicely, for a long time, nonprofit arts, theater specifically in San Francisco. I ran a youth program for many years where I got to direct, produce, and work on curriculum for young people with a series of plays that taught about social issues. I taught about HIV prevention. So my work in theater already had this like social justice edge to it for many years because I was advocating for school safety for LGBT youth and using stories, using storytelling to get folks to talk about issues that might be difficult to tackle in a classroom setting with a teacher. And when I lost that job in 2016, I kind of stumble crawled through a few different attempts at restarting an arts career. But somewhere along the line, I found tarot. And tarot was my gateway to astrology for sure, which hopefully some folks in this group will experience as well. Because if you're someone who's into tarot and you're like, astrology, whoa, I was the same way. It took me a couple years with my tarot practice to find my way to astrology. I just kind of let it wash over me for a couple years. And there's a great podcast you might be familiar with called Fortune's Wheelhouse with T. Susan Chang and Mel Meline. I listened to all 78 episodes plus where they weave astrology in beautifully. And I literally need to go back and listen to the whole thing now because I did not have the astrological knowledge that I do now. But once you connect the dots between tarot and astrology, I feel like both modalities just really open up and they just have so much more to offer. Being someone with a theater background, I'm really drawn to story, narrative, like what's the meaning behind this? How can I apply it to my lived experience? And astrology, especially, I think has really supported my tarot practice in that because we get to look at time as this living, breathing thing. And when you hear Decan walk, you're probably like, where are we going? How are we going to get there, right? I did the Decan walk, I think, prior to joining Christopher's group, but there's something about being guided through it by teachers and guides that really helped it open up on a whole other level. For me, it's when you get to come together with community and really talk about how you experience the cards, how you experience the cards in relation to your natal chart, where it just really starts to open up and gives you so many more avenues to work with it.
Yeah, thank you for saying all of that. I totally had the same experience where tarot as the bridge to astrology made such a huge difference. And I love what you said about how the two art forms inform and reinforce each other. And there's this recursive relationship as you can study and look at both of them simultaneously, which sounds overwhelming, but actually for me made so much sense because tarot has that visual element that's right in front of you. And even though astrology was the thing I was interested in first, like once I knew what a horoscope was, I was always wanting to see one, but it kind of stayed at that level for so many years and then finally accelerated a little more when I got into tarot. But doing the Decan walk, like I said, was really what blew things open. I have listened to Fortune's Wheelhouse, and when I did listen to it, I haven't listened to every episode, but you're making me want to go back because there were those pieces where I just couldn't triangulate them with the tarot. They went through one ear and out the other. But yeah, that's a great resource. How would you describe what a Decan walk is? Like, WTF, what is that?
A Decan walk is where you get to move through all of the decans in astrology. And decans are these 10-degree subdivisions of each zodiac sign. So you get 3 decans in each sign. Each decan is assigned a planetary ruler. And this system goes way back. We're talking ancient traditional astrology, perhaps with the Egyptians. They imbued these decans, these faces, as as they're called, with so much meaning, spirits, gods, magic. And the planetary rulers give you the flavor or the archetypes. Like if you were drawn to tarot because you're into archetypal work, then layering astrology on top of that gives you just basically more archetypes to work with. You know, what drew me to tarot was my love of synchronicities and symbol and meaning, and how it makes your lived experience come alive in this new way. I've never been a very religious person, but I am someone that, you know, some people say they're spiritual. I'm just drawn to meaning making. And I think going through this Decan walk this past zodiac year, like literally walking around my neighborhood here in Oakland, I see the symbols come alive often. I'm looking for them in like the crows and kids on my block and just everywhere. And I think the planetary rulers give you this guide to take you through. And those planetary rulers repeat throughout the Decan walk. So it's like we get to visit Mars several times throughout the year, but we're going to have a different minor arcana tarot card layered onto that and a different zodiac sign. So it's like with everything in tarot and astrology, there's layers of meaning. And it also gets us to start to think about time more cyclically, which I found is really helpful for me. I was someone who, because I worked in theater, I used to direct plays all the time. My production calendar was my life, where it had a beginning, middle, and end, and I can see it extending into time. Once you start to experience tarot and astrology, especially on this personal Decan walk level, you see everything in cycles. Like it's so cool to get to have this experience of meeting you in tens, doing that Decan walk, and then getting to start this cycle all over again with a new group of folks and share it with them. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, and you and I are continuing the second year of the Decan Walk with Christopher. So we remain students as we also step into this guiding role. And yeah, I'm really excited to share this with my community because we've been studying tarot. I wouldn't say, well, I guess I'm about to say, I guess now it feels a little haphazard, not like it doesn't make sense, but just kind of like, oh, let's talk about the court cards in this workshop. And okay, let's talk about the aces over here. And the Decan Walk really gives a structured movement, and it takes a whole year. You know, we're going to go around the whole wheel, which is a whole year, 365 days. And it also allows a kind of slow burn with the tarot. So this isn't like a crash course where you just like study the cards in 6 weeks and you're like, okay, we're really, you know, you take your time because each minor arcana card gets 10 days of human time. And for those 10 days, if we're in 10 of Wands Decan, let's say, you can be walking around your neighborhood noticing things. I remember when we were in 5 of Wands, I went to the park and I had never seen people doing this in this particular park before, but there were people literally practicing some kind of stick fighting. And
Oh, no way.
I was like, yeah, that's insane. And so yeah, I don't think people are props in my life, but it's just the animation of the universe around you and some of those synchronicities where we can experience the cards internally. If it's 5 of Wands, you know, what kind of internal strife or external interpersonal conflict might be coming up. But then you also just see these enactments of something very literally echoing the card where you're just like, holy shit, that's crazy.
I love that.
And it's so nice to have people to tell that to go to the community and be like, y'all, this is so crazy. And I love what you said about time as well. And one of the things that's been so transformative for me in coming into tarot, which for me was like a gateway drug into all kinds of metaphysical and mystical inquiry, that one of those big shifts was thinking of time not so much in a linear fashion, but in a cyclical and spiralic fashion, which just takes us out of that capitalistic framework of time needs to always build on itself and everything should be going up, 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 like more success, more money, more visibility, when the cyclical version of time is attuned to nature and the fact that sometimes we are building and growing and increasing, and sometimes we are waning and contracting and reflecting and more still. And so just that cyclical framework gives so much more permission for living in a human way and not in a mechanical, extractive kind of way. So I'm really glad you bring that up.
Yes, yes. And I think, first of all, like Decan Walk, without a doubt, has deepened my relationship to the minor arcana card exponentially. I know going into this next Aries season, my relationship with them is going to be so much deeper and richer than I was year one. And what was I going to say? Oh, the natal chart, each person's natal chart becomes this blueprint. We call the chart the root in astrology. It's like, the snapshot of the sky, the moment that you were born. And what that does is it gives all of what are called the personal planets in your chart. So like your sun, your moon, your Mercury, it layers a tarot card on top of them, right? Because your planets appear in these decans within the natal chart. And so then not only are you moving through time cyclically, but you're holding these archetypes from all locations in the chart at once as well. It's like my moon is in the last decan of Leo, and so I carry that card with me wherever I go for my moon.
Yeah, and that's something we're doing in a workshop coming up soon, and something that we learned from Christopher. And it's a very overwhelming layout because all of the tarot cards will be put down to represent your chart. But in the Decan Walk, we're looking at each section of that chart. The first time I did the chart, I was like, oh my God, my brain, I just feel like a little baby who doesn't understand. But then when we take it little by little, doing this process, I realized, okay, my Venus is in the last decan of Scorpio. So that is the Empress touching the Seven of Cups. And so when I see those two cards together as this representation of my planet of art and pleasure and relationship and maybe collective organizing, and I see it paired with the Seven of Cups, for one thing, I'm like, oh, this is why I love paranormal shit. Like in the Seven of Cups, there's someone peering through this portal there's dragons, some other stuff where this other unseen world has opened up. And so I always kind of wondered, why am I obsessed with this? Like no one taught me to give a shit about it, but I just have this irrational hunger for paranormal. And seeing those two cards together does a lot more for me than just saying my Venus is in Scorpio. But then also understand that that placement is there. I also learn more about Scorpio and I learn more about Venus. And then in the group, when I see where other people's Venuses are, and when we talk about that, then you're like, oh, I see these other aspects of Venus and the different ways that Venus can express herself in a chart in combination with these decans. And I just want to add too, before I forget, that and I didn't know this until we did the Decan Walk with Christopher, but that Pamela Coleman Smith in the illustration of the Smith-Waite Tarot was drawing on those ancient layers of meaning that had accrued over thousands of years and those astrological associations in her articulation of the image. And so we've always been working with that connection, even if we're not aware of it anytime we pick up our deck.
Yes, it's like this spiritual technology running in the background, whether you choose to engage with it or not. And I think something to add to that is, yes, we look at the chart and our personal experience, but we also can look at how planets are moving through time right now. Like we know that the sun just went into Aquarius yesterday, so now we're in Five of Swords, right?
Yes. Yes.
And with world events being what they have been in this past year, with the crumbling of empire, etc., it's really helpful to be able to layer this additional meaning onto what seems like chaos right now for a lot of us living in the States, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because it's like at the moment, our president is hell-bent on just taking Greenland for himself. And we're in this Five of Swords decan. Obviously, he's been talking about Greenland for a minute, but it's reaching a peak. They're all meeting in Davos this week, he and other European leaders, to discuss this crazy fucking idea. And the act of taking Greenland is so Five of Swords, it's insane, like if he actually does it. But we're also in, in Aquarius, in an air sign, in this realm of thought. And even in the way that he's spoken about it, it's like, well, psychologically, I need Greenland. It's such a reveal. It's like in his own mind, this is important, and we're going to put all the country's resources perhaps behind this acquisition that is just bananas. And so you can see in real life, we can talk in the collective level what's happening and see it being expressed in the headlines. It's crazy.
Like maybe Five of Swords is unhinged US imperialism and colonialism. Absolutely. It's yes and usually, right?
Yeah. And then, I'm also looking for now that we're talking about it, it's like, oh, I see how I kind of Five of Swords myself yesterday, actually, on a micro level. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
And for those that aren't familiar, Five of Swords is this figure, like they look like they just have, in the Smithwaite version, like they've been in a battle. There may be some losers, maybe a winner. It's not really clear. It's up to your interpretation. But I mean, that feels like what we're in right now. And then Aquarius being, about ideologies and the collective. We get to layer that meaning into it. And it just the world just keeps opening up. Like this is literally why I called my practice Mystic Mirror, because I feel like tarot has always been a mirror, and then astrology gives you this other mirror just to look at yourself and the world, and it's constantly reflecting back your lived experience.
Yeah. And as you're talking about that, I'm just noticing how tarot can feel, we have this fixed set of the 78 cards, and they can create infinite combinations that keep the conversation feeling fresh and different and fascinating. But there isn't as much time consciousness in tarot. I mean, I think tarot's aware of like the present and the future and the past, but it doesn't communicate to us in a time bound way, but astrology always does. And so
yes,
having tarot while also noticing what astrologically is happening can like help you place yourself in the present moment on a bigger scale. And I just want to say, as I keep talking about it, I notice how perhaps it can sound even more overwhelming. But my experience has been that I kind of notice a new connection that builds out my understanding 5 degrees, let's say, or something. I don't feel pressure, or I don't pressure myself to like fully understand all the angles that are happening right this minute. I'm noticing, oh, this Aquarius season 5 of Swords from this conversation with Sara. And now I'm noticing that and that. And that's enough. That's really significant. And then, it's so great to do a Decan walk with other people because you're also hearing their stories and how the tarot and astrology expresses itself in real life, which is something I'm deeply interested in as like a very earthy astrological signature person. I want to see where the rubber meets the road. Like, what the fuck do we do with this? And so just hearing from other people, and this has felt really true in Christopher's class, like hearing you talk about how your chart expresses itself or stories from your life that represent a card, just give everyone in the room this other bit of context that makes the card more animated. And we can start to feel into more of the subtlety of how a card or a planet can express itself, which is so fun.
It is. And we should mention that it takes about 10 days for the sun to move through each decan. That's what we're following, is the sun's path when we go through the decan walk. And 10 days is like really good amount of time to make some connections, right? It's just over a week. I've been keeping a little journal all through year 1 of tens, and I'll reflect on, again, both things happening on the world stage and things happening in my own life, and try to find those threads and connections. And astrology and tarot holds it all, the good and the bad, your accomplishments and your downfalls, right? But it just gives you this living, breathing lens to move through your lived experience with. It's really magical. It's the best way to describe it.
Yes, I love that phrase, a living, breathing lens. So, so good. So juicy. I'm curious how the Decan walk with Christopher, if you're noticing any transformation or shifts or how it's impacted you.
Personally, in my natal chart, I have like several planets in what are called detriment or fall, because in astrology we evaluate the conditions of planets based on their location, etc. And I've found, rather than thinking in terms of can't, cannot, or this is literally a detriment, a thing that impedes me, I think layering the minor arcana on top of those placements really presents more possibility. It doesn't feel like a handicap or something that's holding me back anymore. It just, like, my Venus is in fall in Virgo, for example, and it's in the 10 of Pentacles. And I get to think about Venus now as like, no, you're just working really hard to build your legacy in Virgo, and you might have to do it in an unconventional way is all, because that planet isn't what we call comfortable in astrology. And so it takes what might be perceived as weakness in the chart and really gives you, like you said, some firm ground, something pragmatic to work. My 3 Virgo placements are with you on that. We need to have, it needs to be practical, and I need to be able to apply it to my lived experience.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, it's for me too, it's not only been this entry into the magic and mystery of astrology in general, but also how I can apply that, how I can make sense of some of the aspects of my chart where the planets are hindered, let's say, and then looking for ways and also exploring within community what it could look like to give a little help to that planet or tend to that planet in a way that is conscious of what kind of energy it's in your chart. There's larger shifts, I feel, in my overall understanding, in addition to my relationship with myself. And then it's just, I love Christopher's spaces. Everyone in there is so interesting and creative and like weird in their own little ways. And also, it's just such a beautiful space for storytelling. And I think that's something that you and I really get off on a bit. Like, I worked in nonprofits too in the creative writing realm, and that was very much focused on helping people of all ages articulate stories and share stories and not just feel like you had to be some kind of anointed writer in order to put something down on paper and give it meaning. So,
Yes.
and I think the storytelling is just where everything happens in the divination space. That's, yeah.
So much differently. So if you're like, oh, this sounds overwhelming, I don't know anything about my chart, coming into this space and learning just about your big 3, your sun, moon, rising, and which tarot cards, which signs are associated, which planets and the decans are associated with that, is going to give you so much information to work with, and you can just start there.
Totally. Yes. Yes. I co-sign that completely. Like, I wish I had known this stuff when I was younger. I think there would be less lostness or more
Yes.
good creative ideas for how to honor myself and my strengths and some of my struggles. And yeah, it's interesting as I try to share about this and invite folks to join us. I'm like, can I describe this thing in a way that makes sense? It's a little weird. It's a little different. Not everyone's out there. Not all the mainstream Instagram witches are talking about Decan walks, but I love that it has that slow burn aspect to it. And it gives us a little bit of time to sit with cards and placements and discover just a little bit more as we go. And then, you do it once, and whether you do it again with a group or you do it again on your own, or you kind of dip in and out at different times, of the year and just like, oh yeah, it's this, it's 7 of Cups time, it's 4 of Swords time, then you can always get a little more meaning. You can draw a little more juice from the magic when you do want to tap into it. It kind of lays down a map that you can follow or connect with in whatever way you want in the future. And one thing folks will be invited to do, like Sara, you've been keeping this journal, which I think is so great. And I've been a little less structured in my record keeping, but we'll do something more regimented, like more consistently throughout this Decan walk. And folks will be invited to either just keep the journal like Sara's talking about and just notice what's happening in your life, what's happening in the collective. Or if you're a creative spirit with a creative practice, you can do a little creative act around each card in the
Yes.
Decan we're in, and finish the year with this collection of little expressions, whether it's a drawing or a poem or a flash fiction piece or some assortment of different art forms that track your year and track your experience and connect with the cards. And I think this process also helps us create a record for ourselves. And I think if you're a seeker type of person, if you've got mystical inclinations, then having these records, these documents, or some kind of something you can refer back to look back on your life at different times and see like, oh, I was going this. Oh, this is how I handled that. Oh, me making that decision at that time made it possible for me to do X, Y, or Z today. And you really get a greater appreciation for yourself as a time bound mortal. And
Yeah.
it's so easy now to get lost in time. Like we can scroll, we've got notifications going off like crazy. So much is changing so quickly that I think our brains are breaking in terms of how we understand or experience time. And because things are changing so rapidly, I also think we're in this really important moment where documenting some of our own experience with the changes that we're seeing will be meaningful to future humans potentially. And creating little records like this not only gives us something personally to reflect on, but potentially have that legacy piece for, what it was like to live in 2025 when it's the year, 2080 or something like that.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought up the creative end of the Deccan Walk, especially for your community. That's one of my personal goals for year 2 of 10s with Christopher Marmolejo is to spend more time like with the spirits and deities that I'm not as locked in with that are connected with each Deccan and applying that to my art, which right now is mostly writing. I'm also into music, so that could creep in. But if you go to my Mystic Mirror Instagram, like when I don't know what to post, I post through the lens of the Decan. And it really helps guide my content for the year because again, there's always this lens that I can filter my writing or my observations about the world. My writing is pretty based on world events and what's happening to our material conditions based on the systems we live under. And it gives you, like say that you're in your tarot practice and you're just not having time to pull cards like you would like because life gets busy, whatever. You've always got, like I said, this program kind of running in the background where you have that card and that planet of that Decan to give you some archetypes, to give you some support and documentation. Yes, like anything that you can put, like so much of what we do with our scrolling is consuming, right? So any prompts that we can get to create at this juncture of modernity, I think is really helpful. And the Decans and Tarot are such a great tool for that.
Yeah. And I'll just take that as an opportunity to explain kind of how it will work, where the rubber meets the road in in the actual execution of the Deck and Walk. So we're hosting this in Circle, which is I was just showing Sara, and we both agree it's an aesthetically appealing platform, pretty easy to interface with.
Cute. It's
And
pretty cute.
Thank you. Um, and so every 10 days, I will put out a post that will come to your email box if you got the notifications turned on. And that will talk a little bit about the minor arcana card for the moment. And then it will also include recommended or suggested practices you can work with during that 10-day period. So either some creative prompts as well as journaling prompts, or just, repeating prompts like notice what's going on in the headlines, notice what's going on around you in the world. It's not meant that you're supposed to do all of those practices, but you can very easily just pick out one or two things you want to try to connect with that card more deeply during those 10 days. So that's just going to drop in your email box every 10 days. And if you just read that, you're going to get a lot out of the Decan Walk. But we also have 2 meetings each zodiac season. So at the beginning of a zodiac sign, we will, like right now, the sun is entering Aquarius. So this time next year, we will get together and I'll talk about, because each sign has a major arcana card association, as does each planet. And each sign is also ruled by a planet. So in Aquarius, it's governed by the star, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is the world. So in that opening call, we talk about, okay, we've got the star for Aquarius and what that means in relationship to this air sign. And then it's governed by Saturn, the world, and we can talk about what it means for a sign to be governed by Saturn. And then we'll talk about the 3 minor arcana cards for the 3 decans of Aquarius and their planetary rulers. So we'll kind of review that in the opening of each zodiac season. Then, those posts are coming just naturally falling into your email box. And then midway through each zodiac season, you have the opportunity to get together with the group. And that's a space to just compare notes. What did you see out in the world? What's happening in your life? What are some prompts you worked with that were interesting for you? Or, if you made a little bit of art, you can share about that. So that's just a processing space, kind of a question and answer call. So 2 meetings a month if you want to do them. And then Sara, again, will be coming in quarterly, so 4 times during the Decan Walk, to look at participants' charts. So you can submit your birth time and location and ask a question. And in one of those sessions, Sara will pull up your chart and can walk us through the process of looking at a whole chart and where we might start and what we might look for or notice. And so that's another place where you get to learn more about putting these things into practice, so that, midway through this Decan Walk with Christopher, I was getting my friend's birth chart information and doing very basic readings for them, which I never would have been able to do before. So Sara's going to help us with that. And that's how it's going to work. We have a chat space so you can ask questions anytime. And I'm really excited for it. And I'm so glad you're doing it with us, Sara. Will you tell us more about your work and your business and how people can connect with you?
Of course. Yeah, my practice is Mystic Mirror. I offer tarot and astrology consultations. You can find me on my website, mystic-mirror.com, on Instagram, mysticmirror8. I also have a Substack. I've got an email list called The Looking Glass. Substack, you'll find more of my kind of political, what's happening in the world, longer form writings. And then with The Looking Glass, I'm really trying to build more like day to day, what's happening with the moon and what are things I'm listening to, or what am I thinking about for my community that I'm trying to build there. Yeah, I love collaboration. It's like, I wanted to mention with each decan, we get 3 cards, right? Because you get the major arcana tied to the sign, you get the major arcana tied to the planet, and it's like if those 2 cards had a baby, it would be the minor arcana card in that decan. I was thinking about, like, we just finished Capricorn season, and the last decan, it would be then the devil with Capricorn, the sun because of the planet associated, and that baby is 4 of Pentacles. And I think that's a really clear expression of the devil and like the king, the sun, making this 4 of Pentacles card. three's magic. Three's a collaboration. I'm really interested in collaborative work with Mystic Mirror. I'm really interested in creating space and creating community. That's why I'm so grateful / excited to be introduced to your community and do some chart reading in community. And let me tell you, I've been in a lot of these spaces since I started studying astrology a few years ago, and that is where some real magic happens because the chart gives us this very, very similar to what I used to do in theater. It's like the play would give us this medium to discuss the issue or discuss things going on in our own lives. And that's what tarot gives us, obviously. And then the natal charts, especially because it's you. And I hope that it will not only offer folks support for themselves, but just that mirror of getting to see what's going on with other charts and other people's lives can be so rich and so beneficial as well, just to make those connections. So much of what we experience, I think, with our social media lives is some alienation and a little bit of disconnect. So anytime we can come together, even if it's in a Zoom space, which is actually really cool because we get to connect with people from all over that we wouldn't maybe normally get to meet in our hometowns. And yeah, I'm just really excited for the magic there. So thank you.
Yeah, everyone is going to love working with you. And everyone already in the space is amazing, really creative, mystical folks who also, I think, just kind of like pass as normie people in their lives wherever they are. There's nurses and engineers and writers and all kinds of incredible people. And there was something else I wanted to say about, oh yes, that I think, like, especially for people who come into this mystical realm, as grown-ups, that maybe wherever we live, we're not already connected to other people who share this interest and fascination. And so while going into these explorations feels really invigorating and rich and exciting, there's often not enough people in proximity in our lives that we can turn to and talk about it with because they just don't think about it. They don't,
So
I mean, maybe
true.
they're interested to a point and then their eyes glaze over. But in these communities, we can dork out all the way. I think there's something in my chart that expresses my aversion to small talk. And, we certainly talk about the weather or what's happening in like the world, but we also have really real conversations about how we experience these things internally and more directly in our relationships or the ways that our lives are constituted. So it's just really, really beautiful, really exciting. And anyone listening is invited, if you're interested, go to typewritertarot.com. There's going to be a link in the show notes. The doors are opening January 26th and closing mid-March, I think like March 15th. And then we start the Decan Walk with Aries season, which is the middle of March. And Aries season is the beginning of the zodiac year. The zodiac year starts with this cardinal fire sign that brings about spring. So the actual walk starts there. If you join early, you get into some of the workshops we're doing to prepare. But if you join a little later, you get all the recordings. So it's all there for you. Anything else you want to? Oh, and I want to just shout out Sara's work. Sara's a beautiful writer. So amazing Substack. And I love your Instagram. You just posted that Four of Pentacles card on repeat with different phrases over it that really
Tarot
just...
memes. Got my meme game going on
Your
Instagram.
meme is strong. Yes. And that tends to that decolonial stance that we share. So yeah, just love seeing what you put out on Instagram too. So check out Sara's work and come work with Sara inside the collective. Thank you, Sara, for this conversation. Thanks for the collaboration.
Thanks for having me. And I hope we haven't scared anyone away. I love what you said at the end about like it's hard to meet folks in your community sometimes that have these interests. It's like tarot gives you this shared language, right? And astrology is the same way. Once you just start to learn the basics of planets, houses, signs, you've got this whole other language to describe yourself in the world. And then when you do meet someone out in the wild that's into it too, it's like this magic connection that can happen because you're able to share aspects of your life and the world around you through this very specific lens. It's just really cool. And it just works, y'all. It's like I had no idea when I started studying tarot, that astrology would open up the world in this just really magical, breathing, living way. And I can't get enough of it. So I'm so excited to share it with others.
Yes, I love that. I too am. I'm a lifer. I'm on the train forever. And yes, come get on the train with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope to see you in the collective, and you can always reach out if you have any questions about it. I would love to hear from you. And thanks for listening. Enjoy your creative and magical life. Until I talk to you next time.